motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items A to F, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to rearrange a little and move the Hanford Career Center presentation up. So, we will turn it over to Dana.
Oh,
who's here?
All of a sudden?
You go for it.
Oh, man. Testing. Oh, it's better. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dana Peterson. I'm the Superintendent Director of the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District, and I thought I'd give a little bit of background for anyone who may not be familiar with me. I'm now in my third year at the Career Center, and I have 35 plus years of experience in education, 15 teaching, and then 20 plus in administration and leadership. So I'd like to start out with just the bottom line. The Technical Center budget overview is that we have total expense budget for next year of $3,864,751, and that is a change of almost $400,000. It's $396,414 in comparison with the current year's budget. We give an overview of our revenues, and this gives you a pretty good overview of that. We have state-based tuition payments at 80% of $10,562. That brings us $1.1 million. We have tuition assistance grant, which is about $457,000. Transportation reimbursement at approximately $12,000. Perkins grant to address our formally agreed upon proficiency levels at $104,000. Salary support reimbursement at $121,000, and then we have miscellaneous revenues and some grant reimbursements at approximately $14,000. After revenues is subtracted from the expense budget, the difference is the amount to be raised for tuition for member towns throughout the county, as well as any other towns that reside outside of the county who have sent students to the Career Center over the past 6 semesters. And one of the things that I want to call to people's attention, and I think if you have been on the board, you've heard my presentation in the past, you will know this, but in case someone is out there and doesn't, all the tuition costs are assessed on a 6-semester trailing average. And what that means is the payment is for students not currently at the Career Center. So when we calculate our per pupil cost, it's based on students that we present to you who are no longer with us. So the amount to be raised by taxes for next year is $2,018,916 and some change, and that results in this FTE of 123.76 is FTEs that are already through the Career Center. That 6-semester trailing average results in a slightly inflated cost per student. Our state payment is $1.1 million, and we divide that by the 6-semester average, and the state gives us $91.89. When you add that to the amount to be raised for tuition costs, comes up with a total cost per FTE, and that's not FTE staff that I was talking about earlier. We calculate our students as FTEs, so that is an aggregated number over the course of 6 semesters of the previous 3 years. And that's why this number is 123. We currently have 140, I've got another slide, 147 or 49, I can't remember, the slide will show me, FTEs for this year, significantly above that number. By comparison, if we were dividing by simply the number of FTEs, not students, because students is another number, but we have 403 students that result in 149, whatever the number is, FTEs. If we were dividing by that number, we would have a number that was closer to 20,000, so it would be 19 and some change or 20 and some change. That's not in the presentation because that's not the way we calculate it. To give you an historical comparison, I thought that I would compare the 2013-14 school year, a time when we had approximately the same number of FTEs. We actually have a few more FTEs now at 147.83 compared to 140.33. And so if you look at that, our increase from those two budgets, comparing the 2021 to the 2014 budget, we're over that budget by about $261,000. So we were able to drop some costs in the intervening several years, and that results in approximately a 7.27% increase from that budget back then. To put that in context, that's approximately 1% increase a year over the course of those 7 years. And I was asked the question before, so what does this mean in terms of the 147 FTEs? I said for this year it means 403 students that we're serving. And I was asked about this figure at a previous meeting, and I didn't have the answer, so I went and researched that. That was approximately 323 students. Okay. What is the difference? The difference is made up in partially technical student participation, but it's also pre-tech student participation. And pre-tech students don't go for the same amount of time, therefore they're not counted as heavily. But for example, when we changed our schedule over the last 2 years to align more closely with Mount Abe, and we got everybody to send students on the same schedule, we have significantly increased the number of students from Mount Abe that have been able to participate. And a lot of those students have come out of the pre-tech programming. So we're very pleased with that. That number is probably somewhere between 35 and 50 additional students. I don't know off the top of my head what that would translate into in terms of FTEs, but that gives you an idea. So the key cost drivers for the FY21 budget. Our HRA expenses are $120,000. And somebody asked this at a couple of previous meetings, why such a jump? We had not budgeted for HRA costs because they only went into effect approximately 2 years ago. And we didn't know what the effect of that was going to be. So we were using surplus monies and a special fund to be able to address those. We underestimated how much it was going to cost in that surplus fund, and that's been exhausted. So we now have to budget. We were actually recommended strongly both by our auditors as well as legal counsel to put that into our budget to be able to make sure that we don't run into any type of a deficit. So that is covering expenses that I heard somebody from the previous meeting ask about healthcare costs. That's a major driver for us and makes up approximately a third. Health insurance itself is also increasing because I don't know if you're aware, but with the state negotiated healthcare contract, there are different provisions now, and we need to cover more people on a different tiered system than we currently have in this year at the Career Center, and that results in changes to plans and access to plans to the tune of approximately $51,000. Other cost drivers are the construction technology program that we reintroduced just this year after an 18-month study on the feasibility of that. It was identified as a major need in the county. It had been on hiatus for about 7 years. And once again, we used some grant money to cover that. We need to now build that into our budget in order for it to continue. Our building equipment and reserve fund has also been drawn down as a result of improvements. We have a 50-year-old building, and much of our equipment is aging and is beyond the regular life expectancy, and we have been encouraged to replenish that. So we're taking a gradual step to get there. $25,000 would not fully fill that fund, but it's one step that we feel is appropriate given the financial constraints. And then a contingency and legal fund over the years, for some reason, was drawn down to a small amount. That's a line item in the budget, and we were strongly encouraged to set a figure that was more realistic, both by the auditors and as well as the legal team. We're restoring a Dean of Students Assistant Director position. A couple of years ago, we were we were not filling positions, as Patrick mentioned in your district here, and one of those was our assistant director wanted to teach a class. So we made that switch, but we did not fill that position. And after a couple of years of looking at how we might be able to address that, it's not been effective, so we need to put that back in and restore that position over time. Insurance, a variety of insurance needs have arisen, and that there will be an increase of about almost 12,000 on that. And then the rest is really on program improvements, salaries, general cost increases, and the like, which are not insurance driven. So those are just regular program costs at approximately 81, which brings us to the 396,414. This shows our enrollment trends over the past 2 decades, so from 2000 through 2020. And I want to point out that our curve here at 2020 is at the same height as the curve over here 20 years ago. So in terms of our FTEs, this is FTE driven. We're serving the same number of FTEs. If you're talking about students, as I made a comparison with 7 years ago, we're probably serving more students because at that point in time, access to pre-tech was less frequent. And so we're serving a lot more students, even though the FTEs are only the same as they were back here. And there are several points along this graph where the FTE numbers are very similar to our numbers here. And in fact, they're higher than some, if you look at this curve down here, which was back in 2012, 2015. So we have more FTEs as well as more students. But I just wanted folks to see that longitudinal data. So in the past 6 years, the semester averages have fluctuated between 123 and 135, excuse me. Yeah. And in the fall of 2015, we hit a high of 153. Our current FTE count is 148, if you round up. And in the spring of 2017, we hit a low of 111. That number is actually still part of the calculation about why we're at 123, because that's hanging on since the spring of 2017. Our program changes, we added computer science last year, and we've had an increase in the number of students participating in that. That is a statewide initiative for career and technical ed in terms of technology and in terms of IT. We also added our construction technology class this year, and that's at capacity. Unlike general education programs, the decisions for CTE programs are based on industry demand and AOB approval. So we have to go through a 19-step process to get programs reintroduced or introduced as part of that, and it has to be linked to market data. Our programs are above historical averages currently this year, and our pre-tech programs have seen a surge in participation. They're at all-time highs, and costs rise with materials and equipment needs because even though we have capacity to accommodate more students, we need the materials, we need the engines, for example, if everyone's going to be working on a project with a small engine, for example, or we have to pay them up. Yes?
For the uninformed, could you kind of explain a little bit what a pre-tech class or program might be?
Sure. I'm going to start with our technical programs because pre-tech is built off of that. So our technical programs are for juniors and seniors. Exceptional cases can be made for sophomores, but it's an age requirement and a readiness requirement in order for students to be able to participate in industry preparedness. And we're regulated both by the Agency of Education as well as the Department of Labor, and no one can participate in a training program under the age of 16. So students have to be 16 in order to be able to go into technical programming. Our pre-tech programs allow us to provide offerings that are not in the same type of industry standard labs, that have higher safety requirements and training that is necessary for students to access those. And so we can offer an opportunity for students to explore a variety of trainings that will lead them to help decide if they want to pursue a technical field. And so we do a mechanical science class, for example, that will allow them to feed into possibly 5 different programs. And some of the skills that they work on is taking engines apart, putting them back together, rebuilding them, focusing on the academics that go behind that in terms of airflow, area, displacement, and a variety of things, and then they can go from there into another program, whether they're going to design a jet engine or whether they're going to work in the diesel lab or whether they're going to do automotive. So those can feed as many as 4 or 5 different programs in our academies. We also have, STEM, which can go into engineering, or can go into manufacturing, or can go into the automotive. We also have some in the arts. We have our visual communications class, which can then go into design and illustration, or it can be help them access anything. They can go from visual communications into technology, IT. They can go into our computer science class, or they could go into the automotive class. But it provides an opportunity for them to get a taste of what the career and technical ed requirements would be.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So program changes continued. Computer science and construction technology have both been identified, I already talked about that, by AOE, as well as industry demand as critical areas of need within the state. And so we are trying to do that. We also did a survey, and on that survey, the computer science ranked 3rd. That was about a 400-member survey of all of Addison County. And construction technology ranked 1st. So this is parents, community members, our partner schools, administrators, guidance counselors, industry partners, and the like. So that's what started us to think about offering those programs. At a previous presentation, somebody said, well, you're adding programs, but are you taking anything away? So I did a historical overview and saw that several programs have been discontinued. We had one in videography, which was discontinued several years ago. We had another one in business. We had a 3rd one in another hospitality line that were discontinued as the changing demographics occurred with market data. So those things have happened. At one point, they discontinued the construction technology. Not exactly sure what brought that about, but it was perhaps a short-sighted decision 7 years ago. So we've reintroduced that. Our program changes have to go through an extensive process. We have to convene an advisory board of industry members that make recommendations to start or reinstate a program. We had to do that. And then we use statewide data to help us inform the decision making. We use the McClure Foundation data, which you can access from this web link. So I have that on your handout. And if we've got a minute, I can show you where to find that. We include industry partners to shape the focus of curriculum and the needs for programming. Capacity and fixed cost. The Career Center programs are singular, so each instructor basically is a program. If we cut an instructor, we cut a program, and then we eliminate that opportunity for students. We currently have some capacity for additional students in different areas, but some, as I've already mentioned, are at capacity. And we're very pleased about that. And in the last 3 years since I've been there, that capacity has diminished each year. And we're most proud of the fact that more Mount students are actually able to access programming, either at the pre-tech or at the technical level. Mostly at the pre-tech level, I would say. Opportunities to collaborate. We continue to work collaboratively with all of our sending schools to coordinate on proficiency attainment. We're moving forward with, to offer the career program 2 within the IB framework that would allow access to all of Addison County for students who wanted to pursue that. Our candidacy application is pending. We have standing meetings with our partner schools from all 3 Addison County high schools once a month. We've got another one tomorrow, in fact. And as we move forward, I've made suggestions to work with our Addison County superintendents more closely during the development process, budget development process. This year, there were a few hiccups on communication from our office to our partner schools, which created a little bit of anxiety. So I've talked with Patrick in particular at some length about how we can avoid that happening in the future. So looking forward to doing that more closely. Questions? Yes.
Well, thanks for this presentation, and it's exciting to hear that the attendance is maybe going up. Maybe when that 2017 semester goes off, maybe that will be helpful to the numbers. We probably not. This was kind of a surprise that the budget was this much higher this year. I'm sure you've answered this question a lot. Is there a reason to think it will be less of a surprise next year? That there will be, maybe we will, if anything, get the bad news earlier?
Well, first of all, if I go back to that one slide, we won't have $120,000 worth of HRA costs. That's built in, so that's not going to change. It's not going to go up. Well, hopefully, I mean, unless we get different information from the state. But
I'm sorry.
That's built in there.
Built into what we're passing.
Correct. Right. So it's not going to be. It won't be added.
It's a one-time.
That's a one-time, more or less. If there's a change or a cost share increase, or there are more people on the plan, that may affect that. But we built in our numbers to be as consistent as possible. So we're thinking that that's a one-time cost, because we didn't have that when I first arrived. We didn't even have the structure. So we used what we had available, which was surplus that we had in a reserve account, which we set up for paying those HRA costs. Now we have a mechanism to do that with it built into this budget, so that cost will not increase. And if we find out that that number is at all high, we'll adjust it down. So.
I just have a quick follow-up, totally unrelated. Did any technology programs ever use something like a construction program and involve the students in construction activities happening in the district? I'm sure there's a host of logistical and insurance issues there. I'm just kind of wondering, we do have so much construction in our county and such construction need in our schools, and I'm just wondering if those things ever align just in a way that benefits these kids from an educational standpoint, maybe benefits our school district with some enthusiasm around that. I'm not looking to really save a lot of money having kids built, but
well, you're onto something there for a minute.
Yeah, right. But I am wondering if there's a model.
So our instructor is doing his best to promote activities where he's working with construction businesses and those areas that might need some construction, say the Ilsley Library, for example. And there are opportunities for our students to go on site and to work on those projects. The key thing, however, is that whenever it's a project with the Career Center, there are a couple of caveats. One, there has to be a release of waiver of liability because they're students, they're not professionals. And two, it's best if they are working in conjunction with somebody that is actually doing that, so that they can work almost in a apprenticeship way. So that guidance has to be there. They can't just do anything, and our instructor just can't take them off and have them work on a project without some type of oversight. They do work on commission, and they can do that. But when that happens, we sold a shed, for example, for about $4,000 as a result of the work. And they have a second one that's up for sale. So if you know anybody who wants to buy one, they can. But he's actually working with some of the our industry partners to do more of that, so that they would actually, the work would be available on site for someone to sell with a notice that it was produced by the Hanford Career Center and that funds would go to support that program. But the model does exist and can exist with co-op, and if there is a project that would be beneficial and somebody else is working on it, they can certainly contact our instructor, Ben Wyatt, and he'd be interested in seeing how he could get students involved in that.
An example of that, Caleb, when I was at MUMS as principal, we worked with the Career Center, the building trades, or I don't know what the exact term was for the program.
Maybe
at
an
the time.
architectural design or something.
But they actually helped us build a gazebo on the
Yeah.
grounds at MUMS, and it was a great experience. Cool. I don't know if they'd be interested in our $2 million locker room project this summer.
That might be slightly outside of their wheelhouse, but certainly something with a little more focus and less implication in terms of building renovation.
Stick to gazebos.
Gazebos are good, sheds are okay. We can probably work with some type of a pole barn or something else like that. So, but we only have 14 stickers. So, we do have some good equipment, but we don't have that much labor to be able to offer. But any ideas that you have about smaller projects and something that could be a semester long, and you're not on a timeline because we have limited access to some of our students unless they happen to go on a co-op for an entire, half day. We have to be careful about how we're doing that. But we're very interested, and those projects, as Patrick had mentioned, are great. Other questions? Yes?
So I think of the Hannaford Career Center when I hear that there are possibly things we don't offer our students that we want them to have. I think of it as supplementing us in areas of need. And does it go the other way as well? When you work with different districts, are there things that you're hoping that the schools are able to do for them before they get there, or programs that they need to have, or is it fairly self-sufficient that you give them what they need when they get there?
How to answer this question? I think Patrick did a good job addressing the focus of the district as a whole in terms of raising preparedness for students. Access to technical programming does require a certain level of math and literacy skills. So for example, our industrial design and fabrication class requires students to be able to use trigonometry. So they don't have to have known trigonometry, but they have to be ready to do trigonometry, which means that they have to have a good background in algebra and geometry in order to be successful, fully successful in that particular program. Same thing might be true of our engineering program in terms of math. Literacy, we have several programs that require good communication skills. One is medical professions, off the top of my head. Also requires a background in biology, so that students will have that access in a timely manner to be able to successfully access some of those programs. That's the important thing. So if I could support, Patrick and all students, it's that they are attaining a sufficient level to be successful.
And probably a layer I would add to that, we've talked some about proficiency-based learning here and the work that Manu's been doing, and they're some of the pioneers in the state in proficiency-based learning. We haven't talked a lot about the work that Mount Abe has done with the Career Center around
Absolutely.
proficiencies and understanding what they are and connecting the proficiencies and the transferable skills that are happening here at Mount Abe with the work that's happening at the Career Center, so that it really is an extension of the learning that we want students to have here from Mount Abe. It's a direct connection between the Career Center and that learning here. So that, I think, has gotten a lot tighter in the last few years.
Absolutely. In fact, we have collaborated with personnel from Mount Abe for our own PD over the last 2 years. And we've also exchanged a lot of expectations, learning expectations, and we've coordinated them. We've actually piloted some of the work that Mount Abe has been doing in terms of helping students to access certain learning targets and proficiency-based graduation requirements. And we are currently in the process of doing a crosswalk between not only Mount Abe, but Middlebury and Virgins to look at our coursework and our program work and how that aligns with proficiency-based graduation requirements. And that's a credit to our really strong partnership with Mount Abe and the Mount Abe staff. So I can't say enough good about how that collaboration has been beneficial since I arrived on the scene. and with more students that we're able to serve, it's a wonderful thing. All boats are rising from that perspective. And so we're hoping at the end of this year to be able to publish at least a draft document to all of our sending school partners of what those proficiencies are that we can address directly in our programming to complement the programming that's happening in each of the partner schools. So thank you very much. Other questions? Yes?
There was a question, Jane, at the annual meeting regarding how many students from MAUSD are attending, you know, and I know that's tough to off the cuff, but maybe in comparison to the last couple of years. And
oh, definitely. As I somewhat addressed earlier in the presentation, I would say that it's, I can't talk about it in terms of FTEs. They all get aggregated, but if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that there are probably between 35 and 50 more students this year than last year. So my first year, I looked at numbers, I said, wow, Mount Abe just seems to be underrepresented compared to other schools, what's going on. And we were doing some work, and Kelly Mills, our assistant director, was working with the assistant principals to look at scheduling and how that was playing out. And what she told me is, she said, this is making my mind hurt. They're all asking me for something different. And I said, what do you mean? She said, everybody wants a different schedule. I said, wait a second, we can't serve 3 masters all at once. And so we looked at the schedule, and I said, look, talked to the administrators at each of the sending schools. I said, here's the deal. We want to work with all of you. Come up with one common schedule, and we'll modify our programming, we'll modify our time slots to meet those needs so the students can be served. And lo and behold, in year 1, we pulled in a number of Mount Abe students. It wasn't as well articulated to all of the school counselors. And so I'd say we had between probably 5 and 7 new students as a result accessing the program. This year, when everybody knew it and we had a whole year to plan, we've got huge numbers. And I don't have the exact numbers, sorry, Kim, off the top of my head, but I do know the numbers because we have sections that go just for our sending school partners that are not Middlebury-based, because Middlebury doesn't access it on the same schedule, which is a little weird, but that's the way it works. So for our pre-tech, on the technical programs, everybody's on the same page. But we operate one section for Middlebury students and one section for our sending partners that they have all agreed to. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody from Middlebury can't attend to one of our sections. In fact, we do. We have some that are attending on the Virgin's home study and Mount Abe schedule. But that's because of the buses coming in, but the students will attend. So I would say that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 programs, all that have about 15 students, and Mount Abe represents the lion's share of those students. So I'd say 10. So you're looking at maybe 40. Once again, I'm finding my off the top of my head figure, but that's probably accurate for the number of students that are attending this year that weren't attending last year.
My awesome support team in the back of the room when we were having that conversation earlier was crunching the numbers. 14% of Mount Abe students are eligible students. So
9 through 12 graders.
14% of 9 through 12 graders
participate in some way, either part-time, full-time. It's good. It's much better than it used to be, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, once again, it speaks to the close collaboration that we have had with Mount Abe over the last, I'll say, 2 years. So we're very proud of that relationship. If there are no more questions, if you'd indulge me, I'd like to play our little video. It's about 1.5 minutes. It's not different from, whoops, hang on. Gotta do this differently.
Shop, to the field, to the
We're working on a
studio,
new one for next year.
to the classroom, to the community. Wherever you want to go, chart a course for the future. It starts at the Hanford Career Center. At Hanford Career Center, you'll learn the skills you need for long-term success in your career, college, and beyond. Not sure if the Career Center is right for you? Think again. With so many opportunities, all you need is to find the one that's right for you. So where do you fit in? Get in touch today, because if you're thinking about your future, you're already thinking Hannaford Career Center.
Thank you very much for indulging me on that. One other comment that's a connection with Mount A. We have an a Lemelson MIT grant for $10,000 working on developing a meter for doing sap flow. And there are 3 students that I can think of off the top of my head from Mount A who have been instrumental in working on that team. And I won't embarrass anybody by mentioning any names, but if you'd like, I'll be happy to tell you separately so I don't embarrass them publicly. But they're doing a fantastic job, and we're just very pleased that we could do such good work for all of our students in Madison County. Thank you.
I'm glad to see that Sean's been filming someone else besides us.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm seeing it's 9 o'clock, and I'm guessing that everybody's eyes are crossing as much as mine. We have 3 real action items that we need to take care of. If everybody can be in agreement around the updates, that if you had some questions about the updates, if you just send them to me and we can get the answers back to you, would you all be in agreement with that? For the updates, if it's just an update, we're just going to tick on past it. All right, so our first action item is to accept the monitoring report for 2.4 financial planning and budgeting. Is there a motion to accept the monitoring report?
So moved.
Caleb? Is there a second? Sure. Sarah? All right, you can talk about this for a short time. Did you make any comments on your worksheet that you want to share? No.
Sorry.
All right. Okay. So, well, then give me your thumbs. Based on the information provided, does the board find that the superintendent's interpretation was reasonable? Yes or no? Okay. And did you find that the data demonstrates the accomplishment of this interpretation? Okay. All right. So the next thing is, all those in favor of accepting the monitoring report for 2.4 financial planning and budgeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Update on the financial report. If you've got a question, send it. Update on the strategic plan. Got it. Again, send it. We had our update there. Next action item is to accept the board monitoring reports, and I'll start with 3.3, delegation to the superintendent. Is there a motion to accept that report? Sure. Sarah? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Kevin's here, and he's the author of this report.
I think one thing that I did draw out in item 2, I guess it was, the fact that the board will never prescribe organizational means delegated to the superintendent. And to be professional about it, I said we report general compliance as opposed to we're sort of compliant. And that references back to the whole way we handled a
Grievance.
Grievance,
Yes.
thank you. And came out of it and made some direct requirements to the superintendent. And then we went and ran in a circle for a few minutes and then rescinded that decision. So with that aspect, I couldn't say that we were fully in compliance with that section, but everything else, I felt that there was enough evidence that we were compliant with all other aspects.
I think the way you explained it, you showed how we corrected our incorrect action, that, you know, how we fixed what we did wrong. So I think it was, as I read it, I understood we made a mistake and how we fixed it. Anyone else? All right, so based on the information provided, does the board find that the interpretation is reasonable? Yes or no? Okay. And did the data demonstrate the accomplishment of this interpretation? Okay. All right, all those in favor of accepting the monitoring report for 3.3 delegation to the superintendent, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Any abstentions? All right. The next one is 4.2. I need a motion to accept the monitoring report for 4.2 board job description. Motion. Kristen? And is there a second? Sure. Sarah? Okay. Any discussion or anything you wanted to point out? Okay. So based on the information provided, does the board find that the interpretation was reasonable? Did the data demonstrate the accomplishment of this interpretation? Okay, so all those in favor of accepting the monitoring report for 4.2 board job description, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have one more action item, almost slipped by me, to approve the 2019 audit. Is there a motion to approve the 2019 audit? Sure. Sarah? Is there a second? Caleb? Any discussion? Any comments?
Audits are important.
Or anything stuff?
Are we doing some of those things?
What's that?
The recommendations?
I can let Floyd talk about a little bit more of the depth, but I think that, you know, as Caleb mentioned, audits are important. That's my takeaway, and that there hasn't been an audit yet that we haven't learned something and made some adjustments, and we continue to evolve, and those audits are really helpful in offering some suggestions about where to go. Floyd, maybe you can elaborate on some of the specifics about what's in process now as a result of some of the recommendations of the audit.
If you look at the management letter in there, all of those items have either been fixed or process of being fixed. With the exception of the food service bad debt write-off, we're going to carry that one. But we've addressed that with a budget line that covers that cost. Student activities, the issues we had with that have been corrected. Food service procurement has been corrected. Cash receipt has been corrected. Purchase orders after the fact, there'll always be some of those just because of the emergency nature of facilities. But that said, there are far less in this fiscal year than in that previous fiscal year. I'm defending a prior group, so bank reconciliations, that has been moved from a paper structure to a digital, which makes it happen very quickly, very cleanly, and without missing any. So the items on the management letter, which are the opportunities to improve, we feel that we've accomplished great strides in eliminating those going forward, which means we'll just have some new ones next year. No, hopefully.
and I would add, and Floyd, you might be able to elaborate on this as well, but the level of detail and the thoroughness of this audit, I think is much greater than past audits, which has been really, I think, again, valuable in terms of just our ability to evolve and continue to improve.
The previous auditor was at the tail end of his career, and the new auditor came in and spent time figuring out how the previous auditor had derived the numbers. So we're at a really clean place going forward.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, all those then in favor of approving the 2019 audit, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the next thing is an update on negotiations. A community engagement committee, that came out today. I don't know if you got it in an email or if it's coming, but Krista sent me a message saying that she just got it out today. So that, on community council, we don't have our student reps, so we're just going to, is there anything to add about the VSBA?
VSBA had a pitch from Mike McGrath from Vermont Principals Association, which did a great job of explaining different aspects of how mature it is across the state or being worked on, and different immature programs at different people as administration changes direction. So it explains a lot of the, he did a good job explaining a lot of the infancy of the program and kind of some of the confusion about it. And he also talked about colleges don't seem to be concerned about PBL as much as people seem to think they would be. Any grade system, whether it's letter, GPA, or whatever, is administered differently across the whole host of schools. So colleges are used to interpreting that information based on who's presenting it, and PBL is no different, and maybe even easier way to look at evaluating students. There was a discussion with Tina Zog from the American Heart Association. There's a bill in the Senate 288 that is looking to ban flavored e-cigarettes as well as flavored tobacco products. She was looking for support from the VSBA. The VSBA moved to support that effort. A variety of ongoing legislative updates. There's a consideration of modifying the MAUSD Board, which is the board that oversees or negotiates healthcare costs. I guess you could say right now it's a 6-member board, evenly split between the union and the employer and employee. So this past set of negotiations, there was a lot of deadheading because you have three against 3. So there is an effort underway to appoint a 7th person to that board that would come out of the board of the Department of Financial Regulation, whatever that means. And that would hopefully reduce the amount of deadlocking as on a go-forward basis. It needs to become part of legislative action, so it's not a slam dunk, but I think it sounds like there's a lot of interest in moving it forward and trying to get it attached to it. So I think that's also highlights.
One legislative piece that I'd just like to make the board aware of. Last Tuesday, I offered testimony to the House Education and sort of a joint session with the House Education and House Institutions Committees on the reinstitution of school construction aid, along with a number of other superintendents, board members, facilities directors. And I did my sort of due diligence in advocating for reinstituting school construction aid, But really, my point was more focused on trying to drive home the idea of, in the meantime, while we figure that really complex thing out, let's alleviate pressures on schools by not counting, like for example for us, that $1 million, not counting that against our spending threshold. So that was more the point I was trying to make. Caleb was there, maybe can add any thoughts that he had from that, but I think it was well received. It was acknowledged that it's a really complex issue. I'm not so optimistic about anything in the near future about school construction aid. I have some optimism about maybe some pressure relief from the money we have built in the budget.
Yeah, I did ask our committee chair on House Education today about this idea of the not counting the capital construction costs, and she seemed to say, oh, thank you for reminding me about that. I want to make sure it's like moving. It was a little unclear to me whether it was going to be in our room or somebody else's room. She said upstairs, which usually means appropriations. I'm not exactly sure, but it was at least a conversation this morning that seemed to jolt her memory that that's something she wants to move. And Peter Conlon, the ranking member, is the main sponsor on it. And so I'm hopeful it gets out of our committee by crossover. We're pretty down to the line. That's the week after town meeting. But I don't know, I'm optimistic that that's going to move, at least from the House side. And yeah, it was great to have Patrick's presentation. I think getting funding for school construction is pretty challenging. On the other hand, I think people are realizing that the absence of a state system is leading to potentially more inequity. And you start to look at like the South Burlington bonds, and you realize we're all going to pay for that. And so the thing is that I think that that is actually maybe the most compelling call to action, is to get some kind of framework in place so it's not just a free-for-all for towns that can, I'm not going to say it's easy to pass a $200 million bond, but maybe you shouldn't be able to pass a $200 million bond. You know, and so I think it's laying bare the fact that we got rid of the money to support it, but with it we got rid of like any kind of control. And at the end of the day, it goes into all of our ed spending. So it's I think that to me underscored a new kind of urgency. I think I've been putting that piece together more slowly in my head, and had been kind of thinking more about like, well, where are we going to get money to get to schools? But it's sort of like, even in the absence of money, the old program had a moderating and kind of governing effect, and right now we're looking at a pent-up demand that's about to like explode $1 billion worth of bonds into our education spending, so it's very needed.
If I'm using my crystal ball, which we all now know I have, my sense from walking away from that was that maybe, who really knows, but maybe there's going to be sort of a freeze on bonds for construction while we study what's the real need around the state and get a game plan for how are we going to move this forward, whether that has funding or not, but at least some controls. Even if no funding comes along with it, there may be some control measures that may come about, which seems prudent to me as a course of action. Let's take some pressure off where we can right now. Let's stop the possibility of creating greater inequity, and let's figure out what the need is, which could be somewhere in the $3 billion range, some people are thinking. So that's significant, all in the context of how many schools do we operate as a state going forward, which has obviously an impact on how much money we need to fix up the schools that we have. So really interesting conversation, great. That was my first time testifying. It was a great opportunity, great learning experience for me. It's really complicated.
All right. I don't believe we need an executive session. Okay. Is there any public comment at this time?
Way to go, Ann.
Stick it with us.
I tried. It won't let me in. It says I've already taken the survey.
Oh, so Kevin, you're the only other one with a thing open. Uh-oh.
Sorry, buddy.
Can you get it?
Pressure is on me.
Yeah.
Anybody want to guess the date of the meeting?
2/25/2020.
That's just wild.
I'm in it right now, if that's helpful.
I've got it.
You got it? Okay.
Got it.
Level of engagement of board members. Yes, no comments.
Yes. Those who were here.
We have a quorum.
Took it for the team.
Was the agenda followed?
Yes.
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 Comments?
Fastest meeting
August
Start all
You're not
meetings
allowed
at
to talk.
8:45.
Effective use of flexibility.
Yes.
Okay. Does the chair effectively establish the agenda and material for distribution to the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Any comments?
Thank you. Don.
Getting an increase.
Is the chair effective in fostering a professional culture regarding fair and open deliberation, full participation of all members, and ensuring the integrity of the board process? Yes, no comments.
Yes.
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 Other feedback for the chair? What went well with the meeting?
We got done everything we need to with the forum.
Focus on the action items.
Yep.
Suggestions for improvement? None? Okay, done.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn
Make it Allison.
at 9:22?
So moved.
Allison. Is there a second?